Hello traders and welcome to the weekly outlook and setups volume 140. We're having a beautiful round number. Really hope you are doing amazing. And as you know, in this video we're gonna have a look at the market, how it developed this week, what opportunities did we have, and most importantly what we can expect for the upcoming week. Although this was an amazing week with some great moves as forecasted in the previous weekly outlook, I kind of missed on all of those. I had 100 not triggered orders, and in fact I only took one low probability trade that I also shared on my Instagram to actually provide you with my learnings from a low probability trade. And yeah, of course, we always have weeks like this. That's like something goes wrong. You're not really focused. You tend to miss trades. Your orders don't get triggered. You might get actually a little bit too emotional. But of course, if you're actually good at spotting when you get emotional, you can of course step aside, reduce the risk, and really avoid going FOMO or over trading. So this is what I did, but although I was really focused as well, I had like 4 missed trades on Friday, a couple of missed trades on Thursday, on Wednesday missed trades as well due to timing. Tuesday was actually a great trade, great day, although it was ranging across the currency board. But yeah, of course, in this video, I'm going to walk you through, tell you what I learned, and we're going to have a review and a forecast of this week. So if you're new to this channel, it is all about trading. I share this weekly outlook and setups every Saturday, and once per week, I post an educational piece of content or a trading setups breakdown video. Make sure you're subscribed and turn on the notification bell. And before we start, I want to shout out Forex.com, an amazing broker, especially for crypto stocks and Forex. Pick their eco account. You're going to pay a little bit of commission, but every single lot that you trade will go towards planting 10 trees. Really think this is an amazing initiative. Make sure to check them out. Check all the links down in the description. And if you already did it, let's get into the video. Alright, let's get started with a DXY. We are on the weekly time frame, and again, as expected, we had a continuation week. We broke the previous weekly high and we're still continuing to trade to the upside, probably traveling to this zone, which we're just about tapping right now. So as I said, we are perfectly bullish right now, but we are creating a new higher high. So at some point, we should start expecting a potentially a bigger pullback, maybe a bearish weekly candle. But pretty much this week, as you can see, the market perfectly went back to retest that previous wick right there, which is a structural retest. We also had a beautiful level on the 4-hourly that I also called. And from there, we actually launched to the upside and closed in a very bullish manner. And yeah, as you can see, pretty much we opened, where did we open? 7th of March. Yep. We opened with a very nice bullish day into this zone. Then we had a little bit of a chop day on Tuesday. Then we had a very nice sell-off on Wednesday. Then we actually tapped into this level. And on Friday, we are heading towards the higher high right there. So it's making its way towards the higher high, which is what I would expect to happen next week. I don't think we're going to actually reverse from there. I would be trading continuations on the Dixie. So if I actually jump on the 4H, the level that was called was this one. And this was the most clear level that I actually saw during that time. And as you can see, I'm not sure where we opened, somewhere right there. Yeah, we opened just with a push to the upside. We had that quick retest for a very nice long that I also missed. Push to the upside, and then from there we started to accumulate. We had a little bit of a sell-off precisely towards this zone. And a little detail that I also shouted to my team that morning is that if you're really following your pairs and you know what's happening, we had this gap right there one of the days on the 4th of March. We had this gap right there, and you know that usually gaps tend to be filled. And so pretty much one of the days the market was responding from right there, but I said, well, we have some more space to the downside to fill in this gap. And as you can see, if you're wondering why did the market react from here, it is probably due to the gap. And then since then, we have been massively pumping to the upside. So the bullish flow is being respected. I am still bullish on the Dixie. The sentiment is to the upside. We had a beautiful higher low right there. We threw this big wick. So if I actually zoom in to see what is happening right now, we had a little push. Then we have this big bearish candle with 2 big wicks on top and on the bottom as well. And as you can see, we're closing pretty bullishly. So I would actually take this area into consideration right there because it does look like a nice demand. And of course, if this doesn't work out, I always look at the wicks, which is right there. And of course, if you wish, you can go down to a lower time frame to refine and to see how you can make an area a little bit better. I pretty much like this one because it threw a very nice liquidity grab right there, liquidity grab, and then massively pumped into the highs. But this one is also great because we had a beautiful sell-off, which actually filled the gap. And then from there, we caused a massive break of structure. So pretty much for next week, I will be looking for pullbacks. I just hope that the market is gonna first give us a pullback either to this level, and maybe if this level fails to hold, probably it's gonna tap right there and explode from there. So pretty much I give myself two opportunities. First one is gonna be from here, second one from there. And if this one fails, then we can of course determine the market as bearish. I just hope that the market is not just gonna pump into the highs, because this is gonna change the scenario. Then we're gonna have a break of the previous weekly high. We're gonna have a deeper tap into this supply. And I think, yeah, you can even take this candle if you really wanna be precise. I do think we haven't tapped inside this one yet. Yep, we're traveling towards it. So if the market first thing on Monday starts to actually pump higher, then we can start framing some reversal trades as a pullback on the weekly. I really don't want to do this because trading with reversals is always not good, but pretty much this is how I look at the market right now. Right, the hourly actually looks pretty good. We are in a push phase towards making a new high. So I would love to see a little bit of an intraday pullback towards 98.60 or 98 rounds. And then from there, I will be looking for longs. So this is Dixie, long bias. Let's see if EU supports it. Let's have a look at Euro USD. Beautiful development this week, but somehow I could not nail a beautiful trade. I'm going to walk you through it, of course. But as expected, 1.10 was perfectly fulfilled, and in fact we just smashed through the level and we went all the way down towards 108. All right, so this is huge. So of course what my expectations are, so we're currently into a very strong weekly demand, right? And we already reacted from it, creating this beautiful pullback to the upside, also retesting this previous weekly wick right there. So again, what I expect is, as we had a look at the previous outlook, make sure to watch the previous outlook because we had a monthly analysis there. The market is coming in from this very strong supply, and this demand actually failed to put up a new high, which means that this one can actually get taken out. So I'm not gonna go too ahead, but we might actually go for 1.06, right? I'm not sure when the Fed are going to announce the interest rate decision. Probably this week maybe, because we're getting into the middle of the month. But when they do, this is probably when we're going to have the unleash to the downside on EU, right? So currently the question is, we're having a strange weekly candle, push down, massive push up, then it closed actually as an indecision. So how can we imagine the next weekly candle? Well, we can open up to fill 50% of the wick and then we can continue lower. Or we can of course have a reversal from there, have a pullback, because as I told you, both the Dixie and EU are in a massive push phase on the weekly, which haven't made too much of a pullback, right? But where you can get confused is by utilizing weekly, daily, 4-hourly, and hourly time frame as your ranges, right? So what I actually had this week was the daily range, this pullback that actually caused the break of structure. The market beautifully pulled back above 50% and also tapped into a 4-hourly zone that I believe I called in the previous outlook. It was this one. And of course, on Monday and Tuesday, we had some great trades. We started with this push to the downside. There were some shorts to be taken. I actually took a very low probability trade somewhere in the middle. Shared it on Instagram. You can have a look at it. And then we started to chop around, but it was very clear that we were building a bullish flow right there. So it was beautiful. And then on Wednesday, I believe, we actually had a confirmed break of the major lower high, which confirmed a bullish trend. But unfortunately, there was a beautiful long trade when I am not trading, which happened right there at 12:30. Yeah, so right there, 12:30. At first, I was looking to go long in the morning, but as you can see, we have like Asia right there. And then we have just 9 o'clock, massive pump into the highs. Then pulled back, another massive pump into the high. So then I was looking to take this one, but I was outside of home. I was looking at the phone and I was looking how the market was just massively pushing into the zone. And I'm like, okay, I am going to skip this one. I'm going to wait for a confirmation entry. And as the market actually broke supply right there, it never gave a pullback towards this level and it just kept carrying on to the upside. So that was a miss that ran for like huge risk to reward. I had members of my team actually setting limits from there, like this, even taking it like a sniper, the stop loss 4 pips. And if you actually ran this one all the way to that 4-hourly demand, it was a huge trade, right? And then of course, right there, I I wanted to take, which trade was it? I think it was that trade I wanted to take at 9 o'clock. Yeah. So this trade, I actually hesitated on this one. Why? Because the market did not fully liquidate below the Asian low. If I just quickly, if you haven't checked my Asian station range video, make sure to check it out. I will gonna leave a card. But as you can see, we actually faked it, but I was looking for the market to retest some of these levels. So I was like, okay, should I take this trade? Well, actually skip this one, didn't take it. And that one was actually a beautiful trade that could have made the week. And then of course, right there, I also wasn't trading because I don't trade like after 11 o'clock. So I missed on this long. And then I also didn't catch anything right there. On Monday, not to say, I don't even remember what happened on Monday. But yeah, also I want to show you Friday, because on Friday I was really focused. I was actually expecting the market to give us a pullback. So I tried to capitalize on this move to the downside right here. And I had 3 orders. So I'm not going to go into great detail into the analysis, but pretty much I was bearish. And the first order that I had was right here. So I wanted to, because the stop loss right there was a bit too big, right? 7 pips. I was like, okay, I can go for 5. So I think I had my limit somewhere right there. Nope, no tap. Then of course I saw we had a break of structure. So I was like, okay, let's follow it. So I wanted to enter from this zone right there. Nope, nothing. Break of structure. I was like, okay, looks good. Then I want to enter from this guy right there. Nope, right? So I had 1, 2, 3 misses right there. And of course, if I actually took it from there, it would have worked out. But I was thinking that it was getting a little bit too low in the range. There were some demand levels on the left. So I actually ended up not taking this. And then it was Friday. We actually had some strange developments afterwards. There was also another trade that I missed on shorts. I think it was this one to the downside, which also developed a little bit strange later, but I also had a couple of limits right there. Yeah, it's this one. So there is the break of the higher low right there. So what I had is I had a limit up there, right? I was just waiting for it to get triggered, but no, the market just respected this doji and flushed to the downside, leaving me without. So it was trades like this week for me, just kind of monitoring, waiting, trying to adapt, but nothing seems to trigger me on EU specifically. But of course, as I told you, we learn from those, and not every week is a winning week, not every week is tradable. So let's keep going. Back to the analysis. Again, as I said, we are perfectly bearish. We went back into this 4-hourly level, 1.11 was tapped, and right now we're heading to the downside, which makes me think that we're possibly attacking the new lower low. We had this beautiful wick as a liquidity grab. We had another liquidity grab action on Friday, which actually pushed to the downside. So pretty much I'm going to take this one. This looks like a really nice supply to pull back at the beginning of the week to potentially take a short. Why is it so good? Well, because it also liquidity grab. I think there were probably some news, and we had this beautiful spike into the highs and then a massive sell-off. So pretty much what I would love to see is the market on market open start to pull back towards this level, tap inside, give me my entry opportunity, and hopefully trigger me in, please EU. And then potentially we're going to ride it to the downside, because we can see all of these flat lows right there that are potentially going to act as liquidity, take out this low, and then from there we can even continue going towards 106, as I mentioned. So this is my outlook on EU. I am bearish, which of course signifies the bullishness on DXY. So DXY really resonates with this first level. The first level for EU is there. The second level, of course, something that hasn't been retested is this one. So if the first one doesn't get respected, then we're going to look at the second one, which is right there. So let's see, right? Expecting a bullish open, hopefully Monday, Tuesday, to create the high of the week, to create that weekly wick. As I told you, to the upside right there, roughly, let's see where actually 50% is. Drop it like that. Yeah, 50% is roughly towards this area, right? So I will be looking to trade from this zone. So let's see how it works out. Bearish bias on EU, looking for shorts. An overall bullish week on Euro Yen. We can see that first we started with some bearish move to take out the previous weekly low, and we tapped into some sort of a level on the left right there. Probably it's this one, or this whole range right there. You can take the ranges because they're more high probability. We tapped inside, and right now we're pushing into the highs. Of course, the biggest question is, are we turning bullish? Well, probably not. This reaction is mainly due to USD JPY, because UJ actually unleashed some power to the upside, right? Which makes it a little bit tricky for the JPYs, because if Euro USD is down and USD JPY is up, then this one is a little bit, yeah, it's a little bit tough for this pair. But as you can see, we opened up very bearishly to the downside, tap inside the level, and then we immediately reacted for 2 days, and then we just chopped around right there. So I'm not trading this pair, I'm not really into it, right? So I'm not really understanding what it does, but to me this looks like a very nice V shape, like a very nice manipulation, probably taking out all the liquidity that was resting right there and tapping into something on the left right here, because we had a massive reaction to the upside. So does that mean that this is a reversal? Well, could be, right? Because we also, if we take this one is actually liquidated with the wicks as well. So I would personally be careful with this pair, and what I would wait for is for a confirmed higher high, higher low sequence, because right now we just have an overall push to the upside, right? If you go really and refine, of course, you can say that this was a lower high, it was broken right there. Then we have a push, pullback, push, pullback. So it's definitely building up some buyers, but I would love to see it on the daily as well, because the daily right now looks like a push, a pullback. It can just continue going down. So what I would like to see is a pullback, sustained higher low, and then a push into the highs, which is going to confirm actually the bullish trend, right? If you want to go longs, then I would look for levels like this, right? Of course, if you already perceive this opportunity as longs, then I would recommend you to drop your range. 50%, this level is exactly below 50%. So I would look for something like this right there and potential longs. But again, keep in mind that overall on the weekly, we are a little bit short bias as discussed. We're creating lower highs as well. Momentum is to the downside. On the daily, we are also to the downside, right? We are tapping into this sort of zone right there, which kind of got liquidated, right? Probably we should be taking this guy right there. So keep in mind that sellers are still in control, and we can actually have also a beautiful sell-off from there. Maybe the market is going to start with a push higher, tap deeper into the zone, and then reverse from there, all right? So on EJ, I am slightly 50-50. Again, it depends also on UJ, the strength or weakness of the JPY. So as I always say, go with the flow. Don't marry a specific outcome, have many different outcomes planned, and then of course act on whatever is presented. But this is how I currently look at EJ. As I told you, overall timeframes are bearish. Yes, we have this big push to the upside, which can signify a potential reversal, but we might just be tapping into a daily zone to potentially flush to the downside and attack a new lower low, as we also think on EU, right? So this is how I look at it. Make sure to flow with the market, adapt to what happens, and yeah. Let's have a look at the Aussies. So we're having an overall bearish week right there. So we had a very nice push into the highs. We almost reached towards retesting this zone right there. We came very shy of it, right? And we're already kind of pushing to the downside. So again, with AUD/USD, it's a bit tricky because we're having kind of this break of structure right there, right? Which was followed after a liquidity grab right there, which pretty much means that we are turning a little bit bullish. And we can see that the sentiment on the Aussie is much different than, for example, what we have on the GBP and on the Euro. It is overall bullish, right? So what of course makes sense to me is to have a look at this big daily sell-off right there, which we failed to reach this week. Pretty much this week we opened right there. We started with a massive pump into the highs, which immediately got rejected. Then we have a bearish pullback, push again, and right now we're pulling back. So the thing with Aussie this week is that I was looking at this range, and of course we pulled back below 50%, but we ended up respecting these sort of levels right there, this sort of wick, right? We actually just liquidity grabbed a little bit, but we tapped into this overall range, and then from there we started initiating higher. So the biggest question right now is, can we continue going higher, right? Or is this just a pullback in order for the market to come in deeper where actually I wanted it to see, right? I wanted to see AU tap inside right there, collect these overall flat lows, and then potentially to move higher, okay? But what we also spotted is that there was this supply level right there that actually failed, and we pushed into the highs, right? So next thing, this introduces new demand, but as you can see, the demand tapped inside, tried to react, and also failed. And right now it's breaking to the downside. So AUD/USD, as you can see, it's a little bit 50-50 right now for me. I wanted to see this zone respected, but as you can see, we reacted and we failed, and we're already kind of below it. So of course, this can mean that maybe there is something inside this wick that we can respect. But of course, I am looking for more downside on AUD/USD towards this zone right there, which is more high probability. And then of course, all of this is going to become liquidity to fuel a move to the upside, okay? So this is the 4H. Actually, I don't want to drop lower because yeah, we had this push. Right now the market is already down. It looks like it's breaking structure, but what could happen is just a liquidity grab and a continuation into the highs, okay? So watch out. You can of course look for for zones like this to also take a short from, because this one right there is a reaction from the demand which failed to cause a new break of structure, and then it actually broke to the downside. So yeah, if you're trading like this, then of course you can wait for a tap inside right there, lower high, and then to potentially move to the downside. But what I would also be mindful, if the market opens, tap inside right there, and I would like to see how it holds. Okay, so I'm not gonna call any longs from there. I'm not calling any shorts on AU. What I'm calling is actually to really watch out what is happening right now, because you can see we're pretty much in the middle of the range right now. So yes, this one was a long opportunity. I had a couple of members catching this one, pushing into the upside. Some of them even wanted to swing it to the highs, but we can see that right now it's failing to do so. And it can be either two things. This pullback is not enough to make a new high, so we're coming in deeper, or this is just pulling back to grab more liquidity, to grab more orders, to later actually initiate higher. Okay, so maybe this pullback was enough, and of course we never know. So what I advise you to do on AU is to watch out for this zone. If this zone actually gets failed, then we can look for a trade from the lower one. And if this one gets respected, then of course you're gonna have a new uptrend being introduced on the lower time frame. So you just keep longing it until the high. Okay, so this is my outlook on AU. Probably AJ looks a little bit different due to the strength of USD JPY, and yeah, this one is already moving into the highs. We had a little retest of this daily demand, and yep, we're pretty much about to also take out the weekly high, which is amazing. If we drop to the 4H, there is the pullback, and if we actually follow the structure, this one was a lower high. It got broken right there. We had a little bit of a pullback. Personally, I would have looked to take it from there, because this is where the pullback originated from. But in a very sharply trending markets, you do not always get a pullback. I do think this is 50% almost. Yeah, almost. If I really, yeah, okay, just kissed it right there. And we're already in a new 4-hourly high. So what I would like to do is probably look for a pullback right now towards this zone, because this is the zone that caused the new high. So it looks pretty good. This one is also unretested, so we can keep it in mind right there. So if you're asking me what I'm looking on AJ, this definitely looks more bullish than AU. So I'm going to be looking for a pullback right there, higher low formation formed, look for your entry opportunities right there, and then take it into the highs towards the weekly high. Okay. Another scenario will be to just impulse into the highs from there and take out the high, and then of course we can start looking for pullback trades, because then the weekly is gonna be really bullish, where we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and probably even 7 bullish weeks. And then of course we can expect the pullback to initiate, which might happen the week after the upcoming one. Okay, so hopefully we're gonna have some pullbacks. Hopefully this one holds for upside, which means that AUD/USD can also hold for an upside, but maybe AUD would like to make a little liquidity grab a little bit further. So let's see. As I always say, flow with the market, don't marry a setup, and keep following structure. Let's have a quick look at the NZDs. So pretty much the same as the Aussies. We had a very bullish start, taking out this high right there, which of course, if we take out a major high like this, which is a major weekly lower high, we tend to get a lot of selling orders coming in, which of course pushes the market down. So does that mean that we're about to push lower, make a new lower low? Well, definitely could be the case, because sometimes the market needs to grab liquidity above a previous high, then to potentially head lower. But of course, this can also mean a break of structure, because on a lower time frame, this can be a break of structure right there, a failure of this supply, which means that we can continue pushing higher. Okay. So still, I was looking for this big candle. This one is way too big. But yeah, it's a bit tricky right now, because we're having this very massive push lower. And as you can see, if we actually measure this, it took 10 bars to push to the downside. And since the pullback, it took 24 bars. So this is twice and even more for a pullback, which means that the momentum is overall to the downside, which makes me think that we can, of course, have a little bit of a sell bias on this one. Yeah, it's NZDs. I don't like the NZD too much. It's slightly bit trickier. I like the Aussie more. But yeah, we're still having these flat lows right there to get taken out, then to potentially tap inside this big guy right there, this big sell to buy. And yeah, right now you can see that since the open 7th of March, we pretty much did nothing, right? We're just ranged on this pair. Like, yeah, we opened with a massive pump into the highs, but then we just returned and we closed like this. Okay, so what happened is the market actually tapped right there inside this candle, probably tried to push up, pull back, high low, good, high, perfect. But right now we can see very similarly to the Aussie, it is failing to hold. And if even break below this low right there, then I definitely think we can continue lower, tap inside this zone, and then from there reverse if this pair is going to be bullish. Okay. If you are feeling adventurous, you can also go for a pullback trade, because I do think that if we're really going to fill these levels, we can attack these flat lows and tap inside, towards the 67 area, towards this big zone right there. So if we have something like this on market open, maybe first a break, a retest, lower high, we can definitely take a sell off towards these areas. Okay, so this is how I look into this. We can just either have a push lower, or we can start with a push higher into this level where we can take a shorts. And of course, the third scenario will be just to move higher, which I don't think it's very possible, judging by the momentum to the downside right now and all of those demand levels failing. So I do think we can go to the downside a little bit to collect more orders and then to actually push into the highs if this pair is of course bullish, because we saw from the weekly we had a very nice liquidity grab, and overall the momentum is to the downside, right? But of course things change, so adapt to it, right? But this is how I look into it, right? Two scenarios that will be favorable. And yeah, as you can see, NZD-JPY is just massively impulsing into the highs already. This one is definitely bullish, because right now it actually caused the weekly break of structure, which means that we have a new weekly range, which means that we can expect anytime soon a big pullback to the downside. Okay, yeah, it's pretty choppy right there on the daily. It's very tricky. I see big wicks, small candles, but of course it's on the 4-hourly time frame, it's making its way to the upside. So if I don't focus too much on higher time frames, I will just zoom in right now, see what is happening. Well, we had this high was broken. What broke the high? This higher low formation. So pretty much to simplify it to the fullest, I would be looking for a pullback, higher low formation, and then potentially a new higher high. Okay, and if this one fails, as long as we stay above this one, we're good to go for longs. If this one fails, then this means that we can initiate a bigger pullback, as I told you, maybe a weekly pullback somewhere towards the middle ranges right there, which of course, if this happens, then we can just continue taking shorts, because we never know which one on the left is going to get respected. And this is the thing with like support and resistance and even supply and demand. You can take this, you can take this, you can drop support, resistance level, trend lines as well. And then you think, okay, when is it going to get respected? But no, you just have to follow market structure, because as long as the market keeps going down, you just keep shorting, right? Then when it changes, then you go long. Okay. So right now, bullish bias, this is the only thing that I see on NZD-JPY. So I'm not going to overthink it. And yeah, overall bullishness on the NZDs, but again, similarly to the Aussies, the NZD-USD is a little bit weaker, which probably is going to need a little bit of a liquidity grab, while NZD-JPY is very strong, so it's much better to stick with this trend and follow the structure. Here is why all the JPYs are massively impulsing to the upside. We just opened this week on UJ, no wick to the downside, and we just massively pumped into the highs, causing also a weekly break of structure right there. So what we can expect right now is to have a pullback towards this zone right there, which is 115, to potentially take it higher. But of course, this is kind of, 200 pips of a pullback, so we cannot really expect it to happen very soon, right? But yeah, so massive run into the highs. Sorry, so what you can do is you can just follow the structure, but even it's a bit hard to follow the structure on this one because you don't have clear higher lows, right? Like, according to me, this one is not really a higher low, it's just a little stop of price, and I wouldn't really take a long from there. If you drop your range, of course, I would look for buys below 50%, which the first pullback that makes sense to me is this one. Of course, we have the daily also right there. So on UJ, if you are not in, if you didn't take a long from some of these areas, of course, if you're good with UJ, maybe you know with fund. This one is also more of a fundamental pair. I do think it's also positively correlated to gold. I think I heard this somewhere. But yeah, I don't trade UJ. So yeah, massive impulse into the highs, massive weekly impulse, massive daily impulse, massive hourly impulse. What you can simply do is wait for a pullback, right? But where to? This is the question. What I would love to see a pullback right there towards 116 and then a push into the highs. Usually what you're going to have after such massive engulfing candles is a wick to the downside. And usually you would like to see kind of 50 to 25% the fill of the engulfing candle. So if we happen to pull back anywhere, like somewhere right there, you can of course drop a normal fib and also trade a 38.2, which is right there. So this is what I'm going to be looking for USD JPY if of course I was trading it, which I'm not. a pullback to the downside and a continuation higher with this overall bullish sentiment. Again, where are we headed to? Well, I don't know. We are revisiting areas from 2016, so it's a bit hard to actually try and forecast anything. We're just about to tap into 2016 supply, which I'm not sure how relevant it is. So what my biggest tip is, again, just to focus on structure. As long as it's longs, you keep longing, and as you start seeing some bearish structure created, go short, but of course follow the hard time frame direction and the overall sentiment, which is bullish. All right, so let's see if we can get a little pullback on UJ and maybe jump on the train. All right, let's have a look at the GBPs. Massive move on GU. My community smashed GU this week. I'm even starting to think to trade it. Massive 3 weeks of bearishness right there, attacking the low right there. And of course, we were perfectly bearish on this pair coming from this supply with this beautiful bearish structure, tap inside, pulled back right there. We had a little period right there of kind of 3 weeks of consolidating, but after the orders were collected, we can see they just unleashed to the downside. And for 3 weeks, we made a massive move to the downside, like, I don't know, 600 pips. Yeah, 600 pips move, right? So currently, what we can start expecting is a potential pullback, right? Because not very often you're gonna see like 3 and even 4 and even more consecutive weeks. Yeah, we've seen it before. Of course, it can continue carry on to the downside, but it probably has to pull back a little bit at some point in time. But right now it's extremely bearish, right? We can see that we opened right here on the 7th of March. We just started with a massive run into the downside. Then we had a little bit of a consolidation on Tuesday, pullback on Wednesday, and then immediately we started pushing lower, taking out the lower low. And on Friday, we also opened, pushed up, and right now we're tapping inside this big demand, which of course I'm really curious to see if we're gonna get a response and maybe pull us back a little bit higher. Because if this is where the weekly move starts, maybe we're gonna end somewhere right there. We can of course expect around 50% pullback, and the first area will be right there. But of course, first of all, what we have to see is the 4 hourly to shift, and currently what the 4 hourly is doing, it's just bearish, right? Lovely short right there. Shorts right here as well from the top, very nice push to the downside, breaking structure. So if you just keep following the structure right now, this is the last break, and the last supply is this one. We tried to tap it, but we failed, and then we ended up pushing to the downside. So yeah, GU right now being so extended, it's gonna be a little bit too tough to trade, because as I told you, we're also tapping inside a weekly demand. We're a little bit extended right now. We've been trending down for 3 weeks, right? So we can start expecting a little bit of a range right there at the bottom, a little bit of accumulation to potentially start making a move higher. Or of course, we can continue trading to the downside, right? So right now, as we have another break of structure, if you wish to continue following the momentum, then I would advise you to look at those 2 zones right there. The first one is the wick, the second one is the higher region. Because similarly to EU, like on Friday, we had this very sharp liquidity grab to the upside, and then it actually continued to carry on to the downside, breaking structure. So of course, judging by the weekly candle, we can initiate with a little bit of a pullback to the upside, right? And you can see this one right there is roughly 25% pullback. This is even more than 50. So we can expect a pullback on the week and then a push lower, which is something that I would expect to happen, right? Judging by this huge momentum to the downside. So this is how I look at GU right now. Plain and simple, looking for lower highs to short. So let's see how Monday opens. GJ also, GJ is gonna have a hard time though because of the USD JPY, right? So this one is in an overall range on the top, and yeah, this week was overall kind of bullish. You can see while we had a massive sell-off on GU, right? This one is bullish. So for the GJ guys, again, always make sure to also have a look at UJ, because this is a main factor determining the move of GJ as well. But we can see we had a massive sell-off right there, and the market is currently looking like it wants to pull back a little bit higher, just respecting this demand, right? But this is just a respect to create a lower high, then to potentially push to the downside. So curious to see if this is going to happen. We have this leg. The market has just tapped above 50%. So I still do love to see the market push inside this daily zone, which is a 154.5. Man, this is a lot of numbers. And then to potentially push into the lows, okay? So this is GJ for me right now. Currently, the flow is a bit bullish, right? Because we have this demand right there, pushing to the highs, breaking structure right there on the 4H. So be careful with trying to short it in the middle of the range. It's better to wait for a better price to sell right there and then ride it to the downside. Okay, so this is my GJ outlook, which is more like on a hard time frame basis, which is daily, right? Because we saw numerous times that the market failed to break the high, and right now we have momentum to the downside. And of course the pound is weak, but just because also the JPY is weak, it makes it a little bit tougher for GJ. Okay, so a high probability area to sell is this one right there. Yeah, we can see GA is just dropping. I'm gonna actually remove this pair from my watch. Let's not cover it at all. But yeah, nothing too much on this one. 7th, continuous push pullback, another continuous push lower. So this one is just going with momentum right now. And it's one of those situations when you just have a massive move to the downside. So you just have to either continue following this momentum or just wait for something to happen and switch the pair, because it's too low to continue shorting, right? And it's not ready for a long. So you just have to wait for some new structure to form and then attack it as it's clear. Okay, and of course euro pound, this is one of the worst pairs because it's constantly like up and down, up and down, up and down. It's not really respecting any levels. Like we had massive push lower, right now we have a massive push higher. So first we take out the lows, which introduces sellers. Then we say, okay, this is a lower high. The lower high gets taken out. Maybe it's respecting this one. I don't know. I really don't know. So I'm pretty much gonna remove Euro GBP and GA from my analysis because I never actually get them right. I don't trade them as well. Somebody said that Euro GBP is like the DXY for Euro and Pound. So for example, if this one is pushing up right now, this means that the Euro is stronger than the Pound. But yeah, I short both the Pound and EU. So I don't need this information too much. So yeah, but currently if I just drop a little analysis on it, it is overall bullish, right? We had a massive run into the highs, which created this demand. So as long as we stay above this demand, well, we are bullish on Euro, GBP. Both Euro USD and Euro and GBP USD are bearish. So this pair is just a mess, right? Just ranges, massive move higher, massive move lower. So not sure how many of you guys are trading this one, right? So this is pretty much the GBPs. My focus on GU and GJ. Overall bearish pairs, especially GU, keeping in mind that we're tapping into a very strong level of demand right there, so we can start expecting a little bit of a pullback. But of course, this is going to happen only after the full hourly time frame shifts, right? So right now we're bearish, so keep taking shorts as long as the full hourly is down. As of GJ, it's slightly a bit tricky, but of course, let's see how this one is gonna play out and if we're gonna have a pullback towards the zone right there. Another bullish week on gold, almost attacking all-time highs, but we can see that after actually tapping the high, it actually had a little bit of a retriever to the downside. So this is of course normal. So yeah, I have all of these demand levels right there, but as you can see, actually none of them got tapped, which shows how bad I am with gold. I'm never trading this one actually. But currently, just looking at the structure, we're having a push to the upside. I would usually take my range like this. We are pulling back down, and currently the hourly time frame is kind of in a little accumulation phase, but we're overall bearish. Last time we broke structure, it was right there. And of course, depending on your understanding, you can take your major lower high like this. Some of you can take this bullish candle, of course, but for me, I would love to see a push, a pullback, and then potentially attacking the highs. Okay, so this is what I would love to see on gold. The other scenario will be a deeper tap into that demand that we drop on the daily, and then from there another full hourly structure shift to potentially head higher. Okay, so this is gold, plain and simple. Hopefully you guys on gold are crushing it with all of this amazing momentum to the upside. And yeah, let me know what you also think, guys. Longer term for gold, are we heading for all-time highs? I personally think so, because the sentiment right now is extremely bullish. Another bearish week on the indices and the stocks. They keep dropping, but right now we're in a kind of a little bit of a 50-50 situation. We can see that we're still stuck in this range, kind of forming right now two inside bars of this big weekly wick right there. But of course, I do expect more downside because it's just very clear that we're failing to break above. The stocks are doing bad, and of course, with everything that is happening in the world, of course, we can see just the uncertainty, what's going on right there. So I don't really advise you to really try too hard to try to figure out what's going on, because yes, we have at times a shift of structure. We have at times like some signs of bullishness, and we had them for quite some times. We had them right there. We had them right there, but we can see that the market is just actually failing, right? So be careful. And of course, depending on your approach, if you are investing, then just keep buying lower using dollar cost averaging technique. But if you're trading it, then of course follow the momentum, which is currently to the downside. Okay, so nothing too much to mention on US30 except the fact that we are just bearish. And of course, if I just focus on the daily is bearish, right? My major leg is from yeah, I'm not gonna move this one because this is the weekly. It is from here. Come on, Fib. From there, it ends right there, right? So as long as we remain in this range, I am bearish, right? And I would actually expect the market to break the low and come and retest the deeper zone. And yeah, as you can see also, Nasdaq is the same. We had this massive push, we pulled back lower high. So right now it's trying to attack the lower low. At first it responded, but we just see that it's failing, right? And of course, right now we can start seeking a lower region right there. Like first one that I see that looks good is this one right there, which is just below ours, which is fine. So let's see, like, can we head for, yeah, 13K? We've just tapped it. I think we can actually go to 1250 somewhere right there. Then from there we can have a rebound. But yeah, of course, right now we have been pretty bearish for some time, which means that we're in a little bit of a pullback. It's not really a recession, right? This is normal what is happening right now. So yeah, keep following the structure, keep following the daily. And if you're trading this one, we'll keep following to the downside because we're clearly bearish, right? Also, S&P looking for a deeper drop on this one. Daily push, pullback, respected, tap inside the extreme wick right there, reacted, but it just created a lower high. And it looks like right now it's going to head for a new lower low. I'm looking forward to 4K, which is where another great investment area could be. So yeah, let's see, looking for more downside. The more it drops, the more I buy. So nothing too much to mention on this one right there. Crypto is kind of floating. I actually did buy a little bit of crypto this week from 39, I think roughly around 39 or a little bit below. But yeah, pretty much we are still bearish on this one. If you actually have a look on the weekly is bearish, but we tapped like 32, respected. We kind of shifted a little bit on the day, which is good because the daily right now is actually bullish because we had this lower high right there, which actually got broken. Then we retested the extreme. It held, pushed into the highs. It failed to make a new high, right? But of course, if you have some spared cash or something, if you haven't bought all the dips, right? This dip, that dip right there, I do think it's worth it because currently we are in this sort of area right there. Oops. This sort of area that starts from here, that ends right there. We can see that it's been accumulating for quite some time. Maybe some of you can even spot a Wyckoff right there. I'm really not sure how this one works. But yeah, I missed buying it from 32. I missed buying it for 34. So right now I ended up buying it at a little bit higher price. But of course, if it drops, I'm gonna buy more. And again, it's just an investment for the long term. It's not really trading. But yeah, the full hourly, as you can see, has been my main reason for the buy. I actually bought it from right there. All right, so we had a massive impulse into the highs. After seeing that, I respected this beautiful level right there, which was also shouted previously. We had a push, we had a pullback. So I just tried to put in a little bit right here. So currently looking again, it's starting to accumulate. Curious to see if it's gonna pump into the highs. Of course, we're having also a lot of news being released about Bitcoin. There was something new from Binance as well, which many think it's gonna replace credit cards like Visas and MasterCards. And I'm also invested in those companies, so I gotta watch out. But yeah, this is Bitcoin. I also bought some Ethereum as well together with it from 20, yeah, I'm not sure, 26 or something, somewhere right there. This one actually failed this level. It went deeper, which is great. So it went deeper right there, tapped into supply, made a lower low, and then it actually broke above it, failed. And right now we're tapping in again to retest these sort of regions, and we're currently accumulating. Okay, so curious as well to see how it's gonna hold. Are we gonna hold from the higher lows right there and start pushing higher? If not, we go deeper towards 24, which could be another great opportunity. And of course, if 24 fails, then 22 is gonna fail, and we're gonna come all the way down to 2K, right? Which of course our bottom is 17 right there, which we haven't reached too much, right? So definitely could happen that we're just generating a little bit of trend line, a little bit of liquidity right there to manipulate lower, and then maybe from there we can have a new bull run. So yeah, again, invest money that you can afford to lose, have a liquidity system in place, know how much you can invest so that you're actually dollar cost averaging, putting your money to work. And yeah, this is how I'm gonna wrap it up. Really hope it was insightful. We're having some clear setups aligning. It's already the middle of March, so we can expect even more volatility. We have a lot of news releases coming out, I do believe. The Fed also are coming to speak pretty soon. So let me know if you enjoyed this video. Hit the like, it really supports me if you hit the like button. Also leave a comment. I always love seeing your comments. And yeah, if you're watching this during the weekend, have an amazing and relaxing one. And if you're preparing for the charts during the week, let's crush it.